Hello, teachers. My name is Luke Wilcox. I am a math teacher at East Kentwood High School in Kentwood, Michigan, where very soon I will be starting my 22nd year teaching there. In those years, I've been teaching statistics in some form for about 17 of those years. Also been an AP exam grader in the summer for the last 8 years. The purpose of this video here is for you teachers that are using the Statistics and Probability with Applications 4th edition, which we lovingly refer to as the Peacock book, the 4th edition. I'd like to make you aware of some resources that you have if you are using this particular textbook, specifically the resources that are found on statsmedic.com. So I'm going to jump right in here and show you what the site looks like. It's statsmedic.com. Just a quick sort of history here. You'll see this is me and this is my colleague, Lindsay Gallus. We teach together at East Kentwood High School. And about 7 years ago, we were tasked with designing a new intro stats class at EK. And we decided that we were gonna do it the best we could, and we were gonna put those lessons online so that teachers around the country could use those lessons if they'd like to. And so that's how StatsMedic was born 7 years ago. It has grown to be much, much more than that, a huge community of amazing teachers, lots and lots of resources that are available here. But I want to specifically point you to the ones that go directly with the textbook that you're using, that is Statistics and Probability with Applications. So on the left here is your lesson plans. This is probably your most valuable resource. There are several different pathways here. The one that you're going to be looking for is the SPA 4E, the 4th edition. The 3rd edition was what we actually started 7 years ago, but we have just written all brand new lessons for the 4th edition here. So let me show you what those look like. So they are organized by chapter, and you will notice it just is perfectly aligned with the textbook itself. When you click in on an individual chapter, it will give you a pacing guide day by day on what we think you should teach. This is what we do in our actual classrooms. This is how we break it up. This is where we put our quizzes. You can see how many review days we have. And so perfectly aligned with each one of the lessons that are in the textbook there. So I'm going to jump to chapter 4. And you can see it is a chapter that takes about 15 days for us to get through. And I'm just going to click in on one of the lessons here. Let's look at lesson 4.2. And so the way that the pages are organized here, at the very top, you will see the learning targets. Those learning targets are also listed in the textbook. Then we're going to give you what we call the quick lesson plan. That's just sort of a high-level overview about how long each part of the lesson takes. And this is what your typical lesson is going to look like. You're going to have an activity where students are working in small groups. You're going to have the debrief of the activity where the teacher is taking the whole class through a debrief of what they should have learned in that particular activity. You have what we call the quick notes. And then there is some practice problems at the end, which we call the check your understanding. So the next thing you'll see are your downloads. This is where you can actually download the lesson to print out, to hand write to students, along with the answer key that goes with that. So just to show you what that would look like, we do provide the lessons in PDF form, if you just want to print it out as is, or a Word document form, if you want to make some changes. Sometimes we reference like East Kentwood High School, and you might want to delete that and put in your own high school, or we reference Miss Gallus or Mr. Wilcox, and you want to insert your own name. So we do give you the Word versions of these. Here's what it looks like. And a typical StatsMedic lesson on page 1 is going to be the activity. And the activity is designed so that the teacher doesn't have to do any lecture or any notes up front. You can literally hand this out to students, put them in their groups, and have them work through the activity. So this one has 7 questions here. Students would be given, I don't know, 20 minutes maybe to work through this activity. Then once the students have completed that activity, it's the teacher's role to then do a full class debrief where you go through the activity and talk about what students should have learned. Then on the next page, you see what we call the quick notes. Now, the quick notes is where you're going to go back to each one of the learning targets and summarize what students should have learned about that particular learning target. And then we have our Check Your Understanding problem, the lesson app, which is also found in your textbook there. And this is just like a practice problem in a new context to see, to make sure that students learned what they needed to in the activity. Now, also included is the answer key. This is the thing that I think will be most helpful for you. Now, the way that the answer keys are organized, what you see in blue are expected student responses. What you see in red are the teacher notes that the teacher is going to add during the debrief of the activity. So anything that you see in red is sort of like the official notes. We even have our own students switch colors. So they put down their pencils, they get out a red pen, and they add anything in the margins that happens in the debrief, just like you see in red up here. So those are the sort of teacher formal notes that you'll see there. Then on the next page, you're going to see the quick notes, and you'll notice that they are organized by learning target, LT1, LT2, and LT3. And then, of course, you have your answer key there for the lesson app that the students would be doing. So every one of the lessons has the actual lesson to print out, as well as the teacher answer key. So that's what you can download here. Then below that, you have essentially like a blog post where we've gone through and tried to give you all of the details that you need to know in order to be able to teach that lesson. So this is often based on our own experience of having taught this lesson several times, knowing where students struggle, knowing what questions might be helpful to ask. So the experience first part of it is the activity, right? Where the students are working together in groups. That is the experience. The formalize later that you see down here, this is where the teacher is formalizing during the debrief. So we call this lesson structure experience first, formalize later. And we even have a special blog post explaining the teaching philosophy of experience first, formalize later. Lindsay and I got tired of saying that over and over again. So now we just say EFL. And EFL just means experience first, formalize later. And EFL always has the same 4 parts to it. It has the activity that the students work on in groups. It has the debrief where the teacher goes through it as a whole class. It has the important ideas of the quick notes. And then it has the Check Your Understanding, which we call the lesson app. So that's an explanation that's available in the blog post section if you want to read more about that, that idea of experience first, formalize later. So you'll see lots of really good teaching tips here, and every single one of the lessons has this. So if I go to the next lesson, I go to day 4 here, you're going to see the learning targets at the top, the quick lesson plan, the downloadable activity and answer key, and then you got that same experience first, formalize later with some teacher tips there along with it. So you have lesson plans for every single lesson that is in the textbook from beginning to end. All of the chapters that are contained there. So you got chapters 1 all the way through 11. And then we even added an end of year project if you have time at the end of the year to do this end of the year project. So I think that's probably your most valuable resource that you're going to find on StatsMedic if you are teaching out of that textbook. The other thing that you might find helpful is we do have a blog, and there are over 100 blog posts here, most of which are just about best practices for teaching statistics. So you can go through and have a look. There are lots and lots of good teaching tips about teaching statistics there. We also have a resources section here. I know one of the things that is highly used in the SPA curriculum is the applets. So there's much of more of a reliance on the applets rather than on the calculator. I love these applets. I love teaching with these applets. They're all available here. statsmedic.com/applets is gonna give you that there. So that's one of your most valuable resources. The other thing, if you have questions or a resource that you're looking for, this is where you can reach out to Lindsay and myself in the contact us, or you can email me directly, luke@statsmedic.com. Feel free to send me any questions, comments, anything that you might need help or support with throughout this next school year. So listen, I hope that you find those resources helpful. Lindsay and I have worked very hard on those lessons. They are very polished for the intro stats class. So we hope that that's something that's helpful for you. We hope that your students will love it and enjoy taking your stats class. Feel free to reach out at any point throughout the next school year if you have any questions. Have a wonderful day.